Hello, I'm Andrew DuBrock. Welcome to the Acoustic Rock Essentials lesson on diatonic soloing strategies. Scale patterns provide great ways to become familiar with the guitar's fingerboard, but learning how to apply them in melodies and solos is every bit as important as practicing the patterns themselves. After all, the secret to playing guitar solos isn't how many notes you can pick. Being a great soloist means choosing the right notes, crafting sensible phrases, and knowing when to take a rest and let lines breathe. In this lesson, we'll work on these concepts and more in an effort to turn scale knowledge into great melodic lines. Since diatonic progressions are made up of chords built from the notes of a major or minor scale, the underlying scale, the scale affiliated with the key we're in, will work well for playing solos and lead lines over a diatonic progression. Once we know this, we just have to learn those scale patterns and we're free to play whatever we want, right? Well, not exactly. You'll quickly find that noodling around without thinking, or especially without listening, can create some fairly dubious sounds. For instance, the following C major melody sounds fine on its own, but when we play it over a 1-5-4-1 chord progression, it sounds a bit strange. Here it is on its own. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here it is with those backing chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. It sounds strange because the melody features notes on strong beats that sound out of place against the chords in the accompaniment. The strong beats of each measure, that's beats 1 and 3, they generally sound better when you play notes that are consonant with the underlying harmony. So let's make sure we're playing chord tones on at least some of these strong beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the second example, I shifted the first note in measure 1 from the discordant F to C, the root of the C chord, for a much more consonant, stable sound. The second measure of example 1 begins and ends on an F note against a G chord. It's not part of a G triad, but it doesn't sound bad because it's the dominant 7th interval in a G chord, implying a G7. But in example 2, I've made it more consonant by changing the F notes to D and G, the 5th and root of the G chord. I also bumped the C note down to B, which makes the line sound more fluid and gives us another chord tone, because B is the 3rd of G. And in the third measure, I moved the first 4 notes up by 1 scale tone, placing the F and A notes, the root and 3rd of the F chord, on the strong beats. In the final measure of example 1, the D note really stands out because it's the last note of the melody and doesn't resolve. In example 2, I've moved it up to G, the 5th of the C chord, ending the line with a nice feeling of resolution. Of course, including a little discord is okay. I left the F on the 3rd beat of examples 1 and 2 alone, letting the note resolve by moving to a chord tone, E, on beat 4. Playing with this sense of tension and resolution can be a great way to tease your listeners' ears. When you're targeting chord tones like this, context is everything. For instance, play the exact same melody line from our first example over a 2, 5, 7, 4, 1, 6, 2, 5 progression, and it sounds great, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. The notes that weren't working well over the strong beats of the 1, 5, 4, 1 progression in example 1 line up much better with the chords of the new progression. The F notes on strong beats 1 and 3 of measure 1 created tension against the C chord in example 1, but are now chord tones of the D minor chord. Meanwhile, the F, C, and A notes in measure 2 sounded out of place against the G chord, but they're all chord tones of the F chord, making them sound right at home in example 3. A sequence happens when you play a melodic line, then move to a new starting note, and play a similar line that recreates the contour and rhythm of the original. For example, let's start with a short descending phrase in the key of A minor, this one. We can create a sequence by moving that phrase down the A minor scale a step at a time. The first notes are C, B, A, so the next 3 notes will be B, A, G, then A, G, F, and so on. Let's try this sequence over a 1, flat 7, flat 6 progression in A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also create sequences from more complicated phrases, like this one over a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 progression in D major. 1, 2, 3, 4. A related concept is call and response, which uses a somewhat looser approach. Here your goal is to play one phrase that sounds like it's asking a question, then follow it with a phrase that answers that question. One way to craft this type of line is to take a phrase that doesn't completely resolve and repeat it in a similar manner that does resolve. Let's try this in a flat 3, flat 6, 4, flat 7, 1, 4, flat 7, 1 progression in A minor. 1, 2, 3. The call and response in this example share the same rhythm and a nearly identical contour, but while the phrases begin the same way, they diverge to different intervals by the end of each phrase. As you may have noticed in examples 5 and 6, sequences can start to sound formulaic and scale-like as they get longer. Adding slight deviations like the one in example 7 creates more of a casual, natural sound. Sometimes players play phrases that closely follow each measure or chord change, particularly when they're learning the ropes. It's natural to want to start a phrase on beat 1 of a new chord and end it before the progression moves to the next chord. While this approach doesn't always sound bad, it can create phrases that sound stiff, because each one is forced to begin and end within its prescribed time period. On top of that, playing this way can also cause your solos to sound like small phrase chunks that are loosely strung together, creating a disjointed sound. For instance, the next phrase isn't inherently bad, but the way it fits perfectly within the measure, with the resolution falling exactly on the downbeat of measure 2, makes the whole thing sound pretty square. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make this otherwise well-constructed phrase a little hipper by adding anticipation. Anticipation is the articulation of an upcoming chord tone played before the chord arrives. Here, you target a chord tone in an upcoming chord, but play the note before the chord change, holding it out so that it naturally resolves as the chord changes. This often means you're ending a phrase on a dissonant note, but that dissonance resolves the moment the chord changes. So we'll anticipate the F chord by getting rid of the C note at the end of the first measure, which bumps that F note into the previous measure, a place where it anticipates the upcoming F chord change. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try this out using the same chord progression, but anticipating every chord change. 1, 2, 3, 4.